Would you?
I mean, there's one thing for sure though. We can't assume people's gender identity. Look, we have to agree, we can't assume people's... Look, you might be a cat, for example, or a monkey. We can't assume that you're not, unless you identify yourself that I am whatever you are. Do you agree?
I don't know that you can equate humans identifying with the gender they think fits for them as humans identifying with a different species. But again, I'm ignorant.
So if somebody identifies...
I was wrong, then I, as a non-medical doctor, I, as somebody who's wholly ignorant of it, would defer to the people who are educated, the people with medical doctors, the people with degrees in psychology and psychiatry, who can tell me when I'm wrong. Why would I share my opinions about how to develop better roads
just to make
when
my
I know
point
nothing
clearer,
about the construction of roads?
Just to make my point clearer, if someone identifies as a cat, like what they did in the school in Melbourne in Australia, a cat, C-A-T, cat, right? Not as a human being, as another species. Now, would you consider that they have the right to have that identity, and no one should infringe their right of the self-identity, and they should be allowed to act like a cat, behave like a cat, live like a cat?
They have to follow human laws, but if they want to call themselves a cat, I could care less. It impacts me in no practical way. If you want to say, yeah, I'm a cat, I listen to meow mix, okay, I move on with my day because I could care less about you. You're not hurting anyone, problem solved.
If someone identifies as a woman, what's the difference? If someone identifies as a woman, just like what you said, and I respond with exactly what you said, I don't care if you identify as a woman, it does not matter to me. Is that fine to say?
Okay, you identify as a woman. Bye, I'm moving on with my life. That's totally fine. You're paying them the basic respect of not getting involved with their business when it doesn't hurt them or other people.
Some people behave like children. Some people behave like children in the park. That's right. That's right.
Continue. Don't worry.
Just to ask you. This is
with the prosecution in court, so I'll yell.
He's very good at his job. This guy.
Sure. So if somebody identifies themselves,
86% of litigation cases won.
Yes.
If somebody identifies,
I can see that in you, definitely.
Whatever gender, like today they identify as a woman, tomorrow they identify as a man. Do you think this is okay?
If it does not hurt me or anyone else, then yeah, it's fine. I have no care about it. If you told me that you identified as a short person, okay, that literally does not impact me in any way, shape, or form, so why should I put energy into caring about it? If you said you identified as a killer and you had the right to kill people, all of a sudden I have an interest in caring because you're hurting other people. You are causing harm to others. But you saying you identify as short, just as a random example, literally does not hurt anyone, so why would I care?
What's your name, sorry?
I'm Mason. Mason.
Mason. I'm Mansur. So
basically, I'm hard of hearing.
M-A-N-S-U-R, I can call it. Mansur. That's how it's pronounced, right? Mansur. So, if somebody identifies whatever they identify as, and as long as it doesn't hurt others, you're okay with it. That's your principle. Okay. So, for example, if somebody works in a hospital ward where it's only for female, and a male patient comes in and says, "I am a woman, and I want to be in this ward," we should allow that identifier of woman, physically maybe male, into a ward which is full of females?
Yes, and the minute they engage in any crime or criminality, not that they have any guarantee that they will, you punish them accordingly because their crimes do not change on the basis of their gender identity or sex. A man who kills is the same as a woman who kills, is the same as a male who kills, is the same as a female who kills.
Right.
Because
so you think
gender identity,
the only difference is to do with committing crimes or not. So do you have something called, like, if you have men and women both in a changing rooms, do you think everyone will be comfortable? If it was a woman changing room, for example.
No, I say create single-person changing rooms because, quite frankly, if people would like to change in private, they have the right to. I'm saying that just create unisex single-use changing rooms. Problem solved.
If women prefer to have changing room only for females, right? And now you're saying someone identifies as a female but actually has a biologically male structure. And if the women do not feel comfortable, you're saying, get on with your life, let that biologically male structured female into the female changing room.
Let's say I'm straight and gay people make me uncomfortable, like that gentleman over there.
Sorry.
Let's say I'm straight.
Can I
wait, I'd
ask
like
you
to
address that point?
I am, right? So let's say I was a straight male and gay people, like that gentleman over there, make me uncomfortable.
It's still
do I have the right
biologically.
to kick gay people out of that space? Gay people make me uncomfortable. I have a right to kick
The
them
analogy
out.
doesn't follow. I
Or
talked about
let's say I'm in
structural
a religious space. I'm in a, let's say, Christian church, and women make me uncomfortable. Do I have a right to kick a woman out of my prayer space because, let's say, she has the same faith as me because she makes me uncomfortable? No. My right to swing my fist ends at your nose. Your right not to be punched. My rights only extend so far as they don't begin to trump your rights, as they don't begin to infringe upon your rights.
Right.
And me.
So do these women, female, who prefer to have female-only changing rooms, do they have the right to be only females within this changing room? Do they have that right?
I don't think they have the right to discriminate there. But I'm saying that
Discriminate
you
based on what?
Discriminate based on perceived.
Perceived?
Yes.
They're saying,
You are saying
we
that
want
they're a male.
female-only changing room here, only females, and they feel comfortable, and they feel if
I'm saying that they don't
anyone
have the
who
right to
identifies
force
themselves,
others out.
Mason.
But there's
I-
a complete way to fix the
can I-
problem.
can I-
Create unisex changing rooms.
But they're not happy
It's
with
that
it.
Easy.
They're not happy with it. So are you going to force
Okay, I've
them?
never seen a trans person or a gender
We're
queer
not talking
person
about trans.
be upset with unisex changing rooms. What do you mean we're not talking about trans? This is a trans issue of access to spaces.
Mason, try to understand. If we have all the females in a female changing room, they're very happy with only female changing room. And they're not comfortable and happy to anyone who is a structurally male, whether they identify with a female or not, to come in and have in the same room to change.
Again,
And they
I think
don't
that's
want
an issue in the same way that a straight man saying
Mason,
no
can I
gay
finish?
people would be
Can
an
I
issue in their shared space.
Can I finish? They don't want a shared changing room. Do they have the right to have a female-only changing
I
room?
don't think they have the right to discriminate. Again, just build unisex spaces.
So now you're saying they should be forced to accept a unisex changing room. They should
Are
be
you
forced.
saying that trans people should be forced to not
I'm
be
not
allowed
talking
to
about
go in
trans.
spaces in the
I'm not
neighborhood?
talking about trans.
You are literally
I'm talking about
you were saying
Mason.
biological females should have a right to discriminate against trans women.
No.
I'm saying that
Hear
trans
me
women
out.
have a right not to be discriminated against.
Hear
Your
me
right
out.
to discriminate does not trump their right not to be discriminated against.
Mason, you're not listening.
I've answered your question.
But you're not
Mansur.
listening though. What I'm saying is, you are now infringing on the rights of those individual females who wanted a female-only changing room.
I don't believe that is their right. Their right to discriminate.
So
does
now
not
you're
trump their right
enforcing.
to be
So now,
discriminated
so
against.
basically now you're forcing them to accept
So
another
basically,
narrative.
You're forcing trans women to accept being discriminated
So
against.
now so now it's very good. So now the question is, should we force?
I'm
Should
saying
we?
their right to discriminate does not trump the other
my friend,
person's
just
right
one second. Hold on
not
one
to be
second.
discriminated against.
Mason.
Again, I have a right to swing my fist, but I don't have the right
Mason,
to hit your nose
don't-
with my
don't
fist.
conflate-
Just as you have the same way to do that.
Don't conflate
my right
many
to
issues.
swing my fist ends at your nose. Your right not to be hit.
Don't conflate issues. So now you're saying,
I'm not conflating issues.
The question-
I apply that to all of my moral
why
claims.
don't you listen rather than keep on talking?
Mansur, I've answered your question. You keep answering the
But
same
do you know my
question.
question now
I
is?
do not think they have the right
We have
to
moved on.
discriminate.
We have moved on. The question now is about force. Forcing people. Do you accept it's okay to force people to accept an opinion against their wishes?
It's the intolerance paradox. I think that we have a right to not allow intolerance because when you allow intolerance, it diminishes tolerance.
So what's the answer?
I think that you have to allow them into those spaces because it is their right to be there.
What's
more
my
than
question
your
you're
right to
answering?
kick them out.
What's the question? What's the question you're answering, Mason?
You're talking about whether I think it's okay to force acceptance on people. Yes, it is. It's enforcing human
it's
rights.
okay.
Your
Wait,
argument
wait.
is no different than
Slow
the
down,
argument of
slow
white
down.
Americans when they tried to force
Slow down,
segregation.
Mason. Slow down, right? You're not in a battlefield. Speaker's corner. We can engage and learn from each other. So you're now saying it is okay to force people to change their opinion against their wishes.
No, I'm saying it's okay to enforce rights. Mansur, in
Rights,
America, in
rights,
the 1960s,
rights.
the integration movement happened.
Slow
White
down.
people,
You know what?
white people
I don't want
constantly
you.
complained
I don't want
about
you
black
to.
people being forced
I don't
to
want
be
you to
allowed
waffle.
into their spaces.
Try to engage.
They constantly said black people should
Right.
be allowed here. Are you really saying it's okay to
Who
force
determines
black
the
people
rights?
to be allowed there?
Who
in the
determines?
NAACP.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
Black people. The
Yeah.
Black Panthers.
Can you listen?
Yeah, I'm
Right.
listening.
All
Who
of those groups.
determines? You said he was good. I know
I
you.
said
You're,
it's not
he's
gender.
fun.
People's
So-
permanent. It's all
Friends, I
people.
didn't-
No. I want you to
Friends.
engage with
We
me.
don't know each
Right.
other.
And
Excuse
yes,
me.
and I'm saying that yes, in the same way
I-
that you're not
So-
allowed to
so hear me
discriminate on
out.
the basis of race,
Hear me
you
out.
can't discriminate
Hear me
on
out.
the basis of sexuality,
Hear me out.
on gender, on religion,
Mason.
on skin color,
Mason.
on philosophy, on anything
Relax.
else.
Relax. So we moved from So now we're talking about
Answer the question. I've made my point clear. I think you
Mason.
have to allow them in those spaces.
Mason. We're now moving into rights. That's why you moved from choice, enforced, and rights. Who determines our rights?
People do.
So if a group of people determines that you have no right to have these biologically structured, male-structured individual identified as a female to enter into a female changing room, you're okay with that?
Do you think that, so the American government has ruled...
Stop.
Mansur.
I am not talking about America. I am not talking about England. I am talking about rights.
Yes,
you said
this is a
stop.
topic of rights.
So,
the American
can I
government has
make
given
my
doctors
point?
the right to discriminate on
Hello,
providing me
Mason,
healthcare because
Mason,
I'm gay.
Mason.
I don't believe they have the right to do that.
Mason,
in the same way that I don't believe
Mason,
that you have the right
Mason,
to say, yeah, people just don't have
Mason,
human rights. I
just,
don't care about your
just
opinion on
talking
other
over
people's human
me
rights
and
because I don't agree
shouting
with
is
your
not a
moral
good argument.
framework. No, what I'm saying
You're
is
not making
I
an
don't
argument.
agree with your moral framework. It
Listen,
doesn't
listen,
matter.
listen. You said people determine rights. Did you not say that? People. Do you agree?
Yes.
Right. If a group of people determine the rights that you can only go to a female changing room if you're a female, are you happy with that?
No, because I disagree with that
Stop.
morality.
We are talking about rights determined by people.
Yes, and I'm saying that
Stop,
rights
stop,
ought
stop,
to be moral,
stop,
and I disagree with the morality behind it.
Stop. Look how we're moving from. We're moving from choice, identity, force, rights, now to morality. What you're doing like a chameleon, shifting the goalposts.
No,
Stop,
I'm
stop,
saying
stop,
that
stop,
rights are
stop,
determined by what
stop,
we believe
stop,
via morality that people
stop.
should have a right to access. Mansur,
Excuse me.
I'm saying
Mason,
that rights are determined by
Mason.
morality, but just because something is or is
Wait.
not enumerated in rights does not mean it is
Who
moral.
determines morality?
Just because something is a law does
So
not
we
mean that
now-
it is just, that it is right, that it is moral.
So we are now talking about from rights to morality. Who determines what is moral and what is not?
Every individual does for themselves.
Right. So every individual. So if I now decide no female in a male changing room.
This is
I
Iran.
disagree.
Iran.
My morality says that that is wrong, that
So-
is immoral.
So now, why are you now saying if rights are determined by morals and morals by individual person, and I am saying my rights, my morals, and this is my opinion, should you be able to now enforce your opinion against me?
If it's protect other people, yes. If you said that you don't believe women have
You
the
know
right
what?
to speak,
Do you
I
see
believe
how-
that
do you see how you've done?
to protect that.
Your position is a circular position.
It's not. I've been very clear in it. If you said women
you
do
hear-
not have the right to, let's say, walk on the street on their own, I don't have to agree with you. I am more than happy on forcing my opinion that women have equal rights to men.
If a
on
country,
you.
if a country decides what is moral and what is not, would you accept?
No, America decided slavery
Who's
was moral.
talking about America?
I don't accept that.
You
You
keep
are.
it America.
If a country decides if it's moral or
talking
not,
about
would you
America?
accept?
Look.
No, I wouldn't, because laws
Why are you
are
so
often
obsessed with
not
America?
just. Laws are not moral. Because
Why are you
I'm
so obsessed-
arguing from a paradigm that I am
Why are you so
familiar
obsessed with America?
Because I'm arguing from a paradigm I am familiar with.
Right. So I'm going to give you a paradigm that you're not familiar with. So let's talk about this. If a country decides what is moral and what is right, would you accept?
No.
So what is the basis of acceptance then?
The basis of acceptance is whatever you believe it is. Everyone has a different
So
opinion
if
on morality.
if I believe no female should enter a male changing room, then it's okay, right?
That's your belief. I don't
Then-
agree with it. I don't think it's right.
So you only agree with what you think is morally right.
Yes, I agree with what I morally believe
Right,
in.
right. So if you think here, I think smoking heroin, ganja, and hashish is okay, it's okay.
According to you, it is.
No, according to you.
I don't believe it's objectively okay or not.
Wait.
Just because
Mason,
either of us think
I'm-
that. I don't
you're
believe
confusing.
any
You're
morality
confusing.
objectively.
If you think now, I can have controlled drugs in public and possess controlled drugs in public in UK, it's okay, right? According to you?
One more time, sorry.
In the United Kingdom, if you say, I feel, in my opinion, it's okay to consume controlled drugs like heroin, right? Narcotics, which are controlled by different schedule within the law.
I don't care about that. Go for it.
Would you say that you'd argue against the police and the country and say, it's my right because I feel it's okay?
Yes, I advocate for the decriminalization of drugs in America. They're used by a tool of the police to keep poor people down, poor people predominantly being people of color in America. The war on drugs saw the classification of all of these drugs into our class system specifically to keep poor people down, people of color down. So I argue for the decriminalization. The whole point of societal change is people with their subjective moral opinions challenging the status quo so we can move forward.
So basically,
If you sent me back 300 years, I would still argue slavery is
brother,
I don't know.
brother, one second.
I don't know.
It's okay. One second. The question about how many genders, the question is something very more profound. So basically you're saying, whatever you feel is good for you. You determine what is good and what is bad.
Everyone determines what's good or bad
Right.
for themselves.
Right. Who created you?
My mom,
And who created your mom?
her mom,
And eventually who created the first human being?
whatever creatures we
Who created the world?
Physics, gravity,
Sorry?
physics and gravity. The forces of nature
Who
eventually saw the
created-
star stuff of
Who
stars
created the
pulled
forces of
together
nature?
because of gravity when they came together.
Mason, who created the forces of nature?
No one.
Does that make sense to you? You are now being very profound so far. Now let's see how logical and consistent that you are. Who created the cosmos?
I don't believe anyone created the cosmos.
So the cosmos was always there?
Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Okay, that's what. If it was not always there, could it create itself when it was not there?
Never said it created itself. I said I don't know.
Remember what you
because
said?
I don't know.
I'm going to take both of your position. Maybe it was always there, maybe it wasn't. There's only two options you've given. Is there any third?
Maybe.
Like what?
I don't know. That's the whole point.
If
I don't know how the universe came into being.
If you don't know about an opinion, then you can't put it on the table because we can't examine it.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the opinions that you put forward on the table, that the universe was always there, or maybe it wasn't always there.
I'm saying I'm not accepting your premise that those are the only two options.
If you want me to examine another option, put it forward on the table. I will
I'm
examine.
saying I'm ignorant of other options, so presenting two
Then
like they're
don't-
the only two options
Then
is fallacious.
don't talk about some things that you have no idea about.
I'm saying that because we don't know about it, you can't present these two options like they're the only two options.
You
We don't know
cannot.
if there's
You
a third or
cannot.
a
You
fourth or
cannot have a
quintillion.
position that I can assess when you haven't got a clue about it.
That's my whole point. I've not got a position because I am ignorant of how the universe came into
Could you be
being.
a brain in a jar in a museum?
Maybe, I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know.
How can you be sure?
I just said I'm not sure. I don't know.
How can you be sure?
I just said I can't be sure. I don't know.
Look, you made a statement, I cannot be sure. How are you certain that you cannot be sure?
Because I have uncertainty.
You have uncertainty.
How
Are you
come-
certain about your uncertainty?
No, I said I don't know.
Did you hear what I said?
Are you certain about your uncertainty? I'm uncertain about my uncertainty just as I'm uncertain about my certainty.
What does it mean you're uncertain about your uncertainty?
It means I don't know. It means I'm capable of admitting when I don't know something.
Yeah. So you could be non-existent either, right, at the moment? Does she exist?
Maybe.
Maybe. So he thinks you probably don't exist. Maybe.
Did I say she probably didn't exist, or did I say I'm not sure she's actually there? For all I know, I've suffered some psychotic break in a mental hospital, and this is all due to my imagination. I can't be sure.
You can't be sure. Is there a way of making ourselves sure?
There are ways of achieving near certainty. You could measure it. You could tangibly.
So you can't be. So you can't be. You
I
can't be
don't
sure
think
about
my eyes
anything.
are completely there. I've been open that I have bipolar 1. I've had hallucinations. I saw things that weren't there. Humans are flawed. They are not perfect.
Is there anything you would like to say about this? Mason.
Mason, I just have a question. Mason, I have a question. You spoke about rights, human rights, and you're an atheist. Now, if I put forward a proposition, I want you to tell me whether you agree or you disagree with it. I think an atheist cannot believe in human rights.
I disagree.
How?
I have my own subjective morals, and subjectively, I've decided what I believe human rights are. Everyone has a right to food, everyone has a right to medicine, people have a right to not be discriminated against on the basis of class, creed, sexuality, sex, gender, income status, skin color,
You
religion.
didn't actually answer the question.
I did. I said I have my own subjective.
I said how?
Human rights.
How can an atheist believe in human rights?
I've just told you.
No,
I've
no,
come
no,
up with
no,
my
no,
own
you didn't.
human
What
rights.
you did, Mason, you categorized what you believe in, you didn't justify it.
Yeah, exactly.
I justify.
Can't go your tongue?
No.
Can't stop talking
My
fast now, can
philosophy
you? Now,
is
what I
that
want you to do
any
is to
number of
justify
people,
it. Try
you
again.
all have a choice. Let's say I knew that I was going to be born into a universe and I had to design that universe. But the catch was I entered that universe in a random setting. I could be her or you or you or you or you. I wouldn't know if I'm going to enter the world as a king, an emperor, or the poorest person in the world. So I have to design a universe that I want to be born into. I use that as a system to categorize rights. A system in which I would be happy to be born into any echelon of society is how I determine what I think human rights should or should not
Are
be.
you reading from a script?
No. I've developed my own rhetoric.
Then engage in a way that we can understand each other. Rather than
I'm saying that I've created my own philosophy on human rights based on something that you would be happy being born into.
He wins in court. He wouldn't win against a schizophrenic pigeon. I'm asking you a question and you're not answering it. Let me try again. How can an atheist justify... Wait, I haven't answered
you just make up your justification. It's all subjective. That's
their
the whole
belief
point.
in human rights? So let me break something down. Human rights...
Okay, I believe that all humans have virtue by virtue of existing. Because we all have basic needs, basic wants. We all have basic rights as sentient, sapient creatures. That is my justification. You might not like my justification, but there it is, and that's what it is.
Okay, so
because you are alive, because you have needs and wants, because you can feel pain and suffer, you have rights.
I can't imagine him winning in court. Let me just remind you of something. An assertion is not an argument. So
that's my justification. You don't like it, but I've given it to you. You have basic human rights, in my opinion, justified because you can suffer, because you have wants and needs. That's why how I determine, how I justify giving people human rights.
Statement. Asserting louder doesn't make it an argument.
Exactly.
You asked for justification, I've given it to you. You might not like it, but there it is.
Let me explain to you how justification works. He's a lawyer, you said?
I've got my Juris Doctor and I'm a PhD student.
You're a PhD student in what?
No, I mean...
Criminology.
Criminology. Okay,
No,
one second. In criminology, say you want to convict somebody, you need to put together justification and evidence. You heard of those things?
Yes.
Okay, good. So when I'm asking you about human rights, I want you to justify and give evidence for your belief in human rights, not to lay out what you believe. Is that simple enough for you to understand?
Yes, and so my justification is people have wants, people have needs, and that's the justification for giving them basic rights. Can a person suffer? Yes, okay, then that in and of itself is justification for human rights and human needs. I believe that suffering is wrong subjectively, and that is a justification I've given for creating human rights. I get that that might not work for you. You believe in some objective religious system for your beliefs, but I don't believe in objective morality. Therefore, you don't need objective morals to provide a justification for human rights. Your own subjective beliefs and opinions can inform what you believe human rights ought to be. It's subjective belief. Never even said I was an atheist.
Have you finished? Have you finished?
I was hoping that
have you finished? Can I speak to him, please? Have you finished? Did anyone hear him justify human rights? Can anyone repeat what he said?
Yes, on the basis of mores, not morals.
Can you come and join him because he needs a bit of help? Please come here.
There's a difference between mores and morals.
Mores inform morals. Both ways inform morals. Our morals are informed by our learned experiences and our own extrapolations of those learned experiences and paradigms we're brought up in.
Right. But we cannot
wait, 1 second.
Ultimately, we cannot know an objective morality.
I agree.
Insofar as one exists.
I said I fully agree with that.
I agree with most of what you've been saying.
So why don't you just come here?
The point, I hope everyone can hear. The point is, there are morals and there are mores. Mores are things that we all agree upon in society, right? If we all agree that rape is okay, that is a more. That is not a moral.
That doesn't make any sense.
How does that not make sense? Every society has mores in both ways.
Wait, 1 second. All human beings, if we agreed there would be no wars, you wouldn't need to actually study criminology because no one would do crimes. Human beings don't agree. Now, if your justification for human rights is people, then people all across the world come across different ethical systems, different normative systems. If you're going to go to biology, then that's a different kettle of fish because we could have evolved a different way and therefore we would have different morals. So you can't actually justify human rights as an atheist.
I can't. I've subjectively said that's where my morals come from. They come from the fact that I personally, as a subjective person, believe that the fact that people can suffer, the fact that people have wants and needs and are sapient is justification enough for us to ensure basic
Is suffering wrong?
Needless suffering is wrong. When we can mitigate suffering, I believe that we have an obligation to mitigate suffering. It's called the ethics of care. The ethics of care and the ethics of formalism and care are one of the guiding criminological theories in the Western world.
Okay, look, if you wanna talk louder and longer and assert, it's not gonna make a difference.
The ethics of care and formalism and care
so
is one of the
everybody can hear,
guiding philosophies
and I hope that you can answer the question. And if you can talk louder than me, you're going to keep trying, and you can keep asserting yourself again and again and again. So what I'm going to say to you is time and time again, Is suffering wrong objectively?
When we can mitigate suffering, we have an obligation to do so subjectively
Did
according
he
to my
answer the
worldview.
question?
Yes, he
No,
did.
he didn't.
I did.
Yes, he
Let
did.
me ask you again.
He did.
Mansur,
My
please,
answer
seriously.
will be the
Mansur,
same
let me
as you
ask
re-ask the same
Is
question.
suffering wrong objectively? Yes or no?
Suffering is just suffering. It's not right or wrong, but I believe that we have an obligation to mitigate suffering when we have the ability to do so.
Let me just explain
I
what he
don't
just did.
believe anything's
What
objective.
a Matis?
Mason.
Mason. What Mason just fell into is a tautology. He said suffering is suffering. Well done. Fantastic. No one knew suffering was suffering. What does that even mean?
What I'm saying is
What
you
does that
can't
even
put morality
mean?
on suffering.
That's
Suffering is just the thing in and of itself.
saying
It's
that.
not moral or
It's not
immoral.
saying
If I
that.
fall and scrape my knee, that's not some moral or immoral action that's occurred. I've simply fallen and I'm now suffering because I've hurt my knee. The morality comes in when other people see me suffering. When you have a choice between giving me a Band-Aid so I feel better or kicking me when I've fallen, that's where morality comes in.
You said a lot of things, you didn't answer the question. Is suffering wrong objectively?
I don't believe there's objective wrong or right for suffering.
Okay. So you believe it is not wrong objectively?
Sure.
Okay. So if you don't believe it's wrong objectively, then your entire worldview has no foundations.
I disagree.
How?
Because my worldview and its foundations come from whatever the hell I feel like it is. We're all subjective creatures. We come up with our worldviews based on our learned experiences and our own extrapolations from those experiences. That's how I create a foundation for my views. You might not get that because you've not operated out of the same paradigms in life that I have. You've not come to the same conclusions, and even if we had the exact same life, you and I could come to completely different ideas about what is right, what is wrong as foundations for our moral views. That's humanity. There's 8 billion of us. We're all going to have our own little variations in what's right or wrong. The foundation for those come in our upbringing and how we then process our upbringing in the world around us to make our own choice about what's right or wrong.
Mason, one second. Mason, in the last 20 minutes, you've actually just repeated yourself continuously.
Because you keep asking the same questions.
No, because you don't answer my question.
I've given you an answer. You're just not satisfied with my answer.
Question. So let me go back to something that we spoke about before. You said you believe in human rights as an atheist, okay? You believe in human rights as an atheist. So I'll ask you a question. You believe we evolved, right?
Yeah. Science says we did.
Okay, we evolved and we have our particular anatomy right now and we have our particular psychological states that we have because of natural selection. So,
well, not just natural selection.
Well,
there's a huge pressure of sexual selection.
You don't need to teach me. I know what I'm doing.
Oh, right,
okay.
It's not very obvious.
What do you mean? What's not very obvious?
All right. No.
I'm just pushing. Keep going.
Just stick to the arguments, guys.
No, as in, you're not being coherent when it comes to your point of view, but you want to sort of.
I've said the same thing again and again. You've just not accepted it
let's
as being my subjective point of view.
So, for example, right now you believe suffering is not objectively right or wrong.
Agreed. Suffering in and of itself. However, what we do about suffering, I do have
You're going to
morality
repeat
about.
yourself again, right? You're just going to repeat yourself again. Okay. So, natural selection is the primary cause of our biological inheritance that we have today.
Sure.
You agree with that? So our entire cognitive architecture has been basically shaped by selection. So our beliefs have also been shaped by selection.
Yeah.
So your belief about, say, X could be something like a person deliberately runs over a child and kills that child. So that belief that is wrong, is that wrong because that act itself is wrong, or is it wrong because natural selection selected it for you to believe it to be wrong?
We have a predisposition to think it'd be wrong because of natural selection, but there are people out there who justify murder, and to them, subjectively, not that I agree.
Again, you're not answering the question. Again, you're not answering the question.
Again, I'm saying that I think that it is shaped by natural selection to be wrong, and that I subjectively.
Shall I make it simpler for you? Because you don't seem to be getting it.
I am. You're asking, is my belief system, my morals, shaped by natural selection? Yes, as is yours.
That's not the question I asked.
I know it's not.
I
said
you
that yes, it's
different.
shaped by natural selection.
What did I ask you? What did I ask you? Just to see if you're listening. No. I want you, because look, when you talk and you go on your monologue for like 10 minutes, I'm listening to you.
Again,
however, when I'm talking and I'm spoken for a very short period, you weren't actually understanding or you weren't listening. So what did I just say to you right now?
I've been fairly open that I'm hard of hearing. Even with everyone else here, I still have trouble.
Wait a minute.
One more time.
Wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. So you gave a long answer to a question you don't remember and you don't understand. What does that tell about you?
I'm having trouble
This isn't about
hearing.
him or you. It's about
Yeah, so ask your question again.
What are you insulting one another?
I thought that you were saying that.
it's a
Are you
very-
saying that natural
next
selection
time,
should
before
shape your
answering,
morals?
get your
I
questions
think
clarified.
that was the question, if I heard it correctly.
Mason,
So I
what you
said
have
yes.
is a script. You have a script. I'm asking you a question, and rather than actually answering the question, you formulated an answer without listening to my question. Therefore,
I'm saying if you believe that I misheard your question, repeat your question so I can answer it.
No, it's a very simple thing. It's a very
Ask your question again,
One
and I
second.
will answer it, or choose not to,
Don't
and
worry.
I won't answer it.
Don't
Say
worry.
it again, and we'll move on, or I believe you're arguing in bad faith.
Okay. How can somebody give a long answer to something that they don't remember? That's what I'm concerned about.
I
I'll
didn't
ask
say I
again.
don't remember.
I'll
What
ask
I
again.
believe you
I'll
asked.
again.
What I believe you
I'll
asked
ask
was,
again.
did natural selection
I'll ask
shape
again.
my
I'll
moral
ask-
point of
I'll-
view?
I'll-
And that's what I think you
I'll
asked.
ask
That's what I
again.
heard.
I'll
Is that
ask
what you
again.
said? Yes or no?
I'll ask again.
Just yes or no before you answer.
What was that?
Did natural selection shape my moral point of view? What I believe is right or wrong, my ideas about human rights. Is that what
not
you
what I
asked?
asked.
Then could you repeat it so I can
I
hear
will do.
it?
I will do. Okay.
Again,
Okay.
I'm not doing it.
Can I speak to him one to one if that's easier?
Well, let somebody else speak because you
No,
don't
no,
know
it's
what
about him, it's about him.
No.
Could you ask again?
Do you want me to ask again?
Yes.
Because it's kind of trying to.
Sorry, bro.
And you can ask everyone else here. I've been having issues with volume the whole time.
Okay.
They don't exist.
Is some,
Probably.
Okay. Is something good?
You
Okay.
just say my hearing issues didn't exist. I brought them
No.
up beforehand.
People may not exist because you're not sure about whether their existence.
Let me ask. Let me ask.
So ignore them. They might not exist.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you. Let me ask you.
I think he knows people exist.
You don't exist either, maybe.
Is belief X? Is belief X about something? Is that belief true because natural selection selected you to believe it's true, or is it true because that belief is true?
I'm predisposed to have that belief because of natural selection, but I have been given some small measure of sapience and intelligence to then try to formulate or rationalize why I believe it. And when I can't rationalize it, when it doesn't make sense to me, I reject it and I look for new ideas, new philosophies. My ideas have changed throughout time. I used to think that I had no internalized sexism, and then I realized that just because I could articulate my biases did not yet mean that I had overcome my biases. So that's life. While I'm predisposed to have certain feelings or ideas because of natural selection in and of itself is not my justification for those ideas. Because a murderer who is predisposed to have a lack of empathy might be able to justify murder in cold blood, while I can't.
Look, I'm going to stop you there. I'm
I'm
Why do you come here to talk as well? Okay. Okay, wait, one second.
Just give me 1 second. What? Would you summarize his answer?
You're being bullish.
Do you mind summarizing? You don't even know what you said.
Okay.
Thank you. You don't even know what you said. Wait a second. Wait.
Excuse me.
Continue.
1 second.
I don't think
Do you mind summarizing the answer?
I don't think.
Do you mind summarizing the
I
answer?
don't. I'm not talking to you.
I asked.
Wait.
Listen.
Excuse me.
But-
Did you listen? Can you summarize? Anyway, carry on.
Look. The whole problem here is this. The whole problem is someone's trying to defend him, but they don't even understand what he's actually saying. So Mason,
Can't you understand everything?
let me.
Don't you?
Look, you're used to. You said you do something in courts.
You don't
do
understand.
cases.
The rest of us don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
You put forward a case and people challenge it, or you defend it, or something like this, right? That's sort of your role. Okay. What if
Usually
I?
on the side of the prosecution.
Okay, what if I put forward a role? What if I put forward a proposition and I want you to tell me whether you agree with it, you disagree with it, you want to challenge it? How about this? Okay. So, human rights is based upon morality.
For me personally, yes.
Let me just lay it out. Okay. Proposition 1: human rights is based upon morality. Okay. 2: atheism undermines morality.
I reject
Okay, one more
that.
second. Therefore, atheism undermines human rights. So I'll put together. Okay, 1 second. I'll put together 2 propositions and a conclusion. Now, of these 2 propositions, which ones do you want to challenge?
I don't accept either of your premises.
Okay, so
But first, I would like you to argue why atheism undermines morality.
Okay,
Make the positive claim.
okay. What was my first premise?
Your first premise was that human rights are based on morality, and then your second premise was that atheism undermines morality. So therefore, atheism undermines human rights. If I'm understanding what you said correctly.
Why do you disagree with the first premise?
Because the first premise is that morality is figured by human rights. That is subjective to me. I don't know that everyone thinks that or believes that.
Do you agree or disagree with that premise?
I agree with it for myself, but I don't agree with it for
so
everyone.
you don't disagree with that premise?
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
But
good.
again, just
But
for me personally, because I believe it's
I'm
subjective.
just looking for clarity. Okay. So you don't disagree with the first premise, you disagree with the second premise?
Yes.
Okay, good. So the second premise, what's wrong with it?
I don't believe that atheism undermines morality, but okay, here's this, right?
No, wait,
Christianity.
why?
Wait. Just giving you an
Don't
example.
talk about Christianity.
No,
Let's talk about
I'm
atheism.
giving you an example of making a positive claim. Christianity undermines morality. Do you agree or disagree?
I don't want to answer that because that's gonna get because
I'm not actually looking for an answer. My point is, I made the claim. My point is, I made the claim, so it's on me now to justify it. So I want you to justify why you believe atheism undermines morality before I answer anything. Why do you believe atheism undermines morality?
Christianity does not undermine morality for me, but let's get back to the premise which I want to defend.
Yeah, so I'm saying, tell me why atheism undermines morality, and then I will give you my justification as to why I don't believe it does.
So I put forward the case and you're going to challenge it. Okay, so the second premise. Okay, just a quick thing. If the two premises hold, do you agree that the conclusion is decisive?
No.
Okay, why is that?
Why would it be decisive? Atheism undermines morality, but atheism in and of itself is simply a lack of religious beliefs.
Then you're disagreeing with the premise. I'm asking you
yes,
this.
I said I disagreed with the premise when you first gave it.
No.
Because atheism is a lack
Mason,
of beliefs.
I just asked you.
An atheist
Mason,
could
one
be
second.
an anarchist. An
Mason,
atheist could be a secular humanist. A secular humanist is going to extrapolate different morality than others.
If the two premises hold, the conclusion is decisive. That's what I said.
I disagree.
So you don't believe the way the logic follows that way?
I don't believe that the premises lead to the conclusion
Okay,
that
I
you've
don't think
given,
you understand
because
what I'm
I
saying,
believe
but
that you have a fundamental
let's just go back to the
misunderstanding
premise.
of
Okay,
atheism.
so I'll justify why atheism undermines morality. Okay? Morality is something which is objective.
I disagree with the premise.
Let me explain why. The reason why it's objective is if it was not objective, you could not enforce it. And you
I
were.
disagree. We enforce all sorts of subjective shit like laws.
No. You cannot.
The cannabis ban is fully subjective.
No,
cannabis has plenty of medical uses that we could protect legally.
Look,
just because it's banned does not mean it's
is
immoral.
not right. Just because someone applies a false system doesn't mean the false system ontologically is true.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yes,
so
and
you're
I'm
saying
agreeing
the
with you
opposite.
as a reason as to why.
You're actually saying when I was explaining this, you said, but people do it all the time. People doing it all the time doesn't justify it.
That's my point.
No, that was your point, and I said it was incoherent.
How is it incoherent? My whole point is that just because
wasn't I putting together the case?
Something is subjective
Wasn't I putting
does
together
not
the
mean
case?
that it is moral or immoral.
Mason,
It cannot be enforced.
Mason, wasn't
you
I
said
putting
that because
together the
it's
case?
subjective, it can't be enforced. I'm saying
so
our laws
Mason-
are subjective. We as humans came to a conclusion on them based on a number of different philosophies and
Mason,
ideas,
Mason,
not all of which are fully compatible.
Mason,
and just because
for
those laws
something-
exist
Let
doesn't mean they can't be enforced just because they're subjective and ordered.
Mason, let me put. I'm
Continue,
supposed
sorry,
to.
continue.
I'm supposed to be
Continue.
putting forward.
When someone's speaking, let them speak.
No.
Do you think he hasn't been doing that the whole time? The whole time he's been doing it. Yeah, the whole time.
Well, are you getting anything?
Don't mind.
No, I'm talking to him. He's talking most of the time.
What he's saying.
I was putting forward the case. You're going to challenge it, right? So. When
Yes,
I
but, okay,
let
so
me lay out the
you
case.
said
Let
like
me
in
lay.
courtroom, this is
Let
where
me
I would
lay.
object to then challenge your premise because it is a
If you,
false
but
equivalency.
okay,
So I would
if
be objecting here,
Okay, wait,
judge would sustain, I would make my
one second.
argument.
I do this in Speaker's Corner just to see if people are even listening. What's absurd, sir?
What?
There you go.
I can't hear
Okay,
you.
there you go. There you go.
Ask him
So
what's
all you
absurd.
get from the atheist side is from the
couldn't
lady of
hear
saying,
your
"Oh, that's
question.
absurd. That doesn't make
Hello,
sense."
are you deaf?
So
I
now we're
couldn't
gonna
hear your
carry on,
question.
okay? So we're gonna carry on.
It's
We're
been
ignoring
done to me
this.
some
I hope
of
you
you.
enjoyed that.
You're
I
a
hope you
genius.
enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed that.
What's
I love
absurd?
it.
He said.
We
What's
know you're a
absurd?
genius.
What's
We know
absurd?
you're a genius.
He said,
You've been
what's
coming
absurd?
here for
We have
30
somebody
years.
here. We have somebody here who I'm
It
going
tells
to
a lot
show
about your
them
personality,
that
doesn't it?
atheism under. Are you listening? Are you listening?
She doesn't exist, maybe. Why are you
So
talking
anyway,
about who may not exist?
let me.
Why are you?
Because I think you exist.
Okay.
I don't have a
you're
confusion
lost.
like you have.
Okay.
So why are you
So-
turning back and speaking to her? She may not even exist
Atheism
from your own
leads to
words.
subjective morality. Do you disagree with that?
But she exists to him.
I disagree with that as well.
How can you disagree with that?
Because
You
atheism
said
is just
that
a lack
earlier.
of religious belief. There are plenty of atheists who are in some degree spiritualists. Atheist is just a lack of a belief in a god or divinity.
You're going from ethics to theology. I said something
You're
different.
making a theological
I said
argument about atheism.
atheism leads to subjective
Yes,
morality.
and I'm saying that I also reject that premise.
Why?
On the grounds that atheism, I don't believe, leads to subjective morality. You're giving a premise and then not justifying it.
Fine.
It's like
Can
if
I justify it? Can I justify
Yes,
it?
I'm asking
yes,
you to.
I'll tell you what.
Okay.
If you believe in God, then you believe in objective morality. But if you don't believe in God, there's only two options left, which is biology or society.
I disagree with that as well.
You can disagree,
disagree with
what
yourself.
you want, okay? So let me explain.
Never said those were only two
let
options.
me explain to you what's going on.
Dichotomy.
So when it comes to biology, as Darwin gave the example that if we were reared under the same selective pressures as bees, we would as human beings have moral, ethical ways of going about which we would today find horrific. So we could have evolved in a different way and had a different set of morals. So Dawkins puts it another way that, basically rape being wrong is as subjective as the fact that we have 5 fingers rather than 6.
And I disagree with Darwin on that. But I would also
That's
think
fine.
that
You
Darwin
can
would
disagree.
disagree with that, given that
You can-
Darwin
you can
was a
dis-
staunch
you can-
Christian
you can-
who believed in God,
you
who followed
You
Christian
can disagree with
ethos.
Darwin all you want, but Richard Dawkins says that, not Darwin. So you
But
weren't
why'd you
listening.
quote it to Darwin?
No, Darwin for the bees, Dawkins for the fingers.
No, you said Darwin said that rape wouldn't objectively be wrong, but Darwin
No,
is a
I said
Christian.
Dawkins, Richard Dawkins.
Okay, Dawkins,
Okay.
sorry.
You disagree with Dawkins then?
I, again, think all morality is subjective.
No, but you said you disagreed with the statement when you thought it was from Darwin. Do you disagree with it that it's now from Richard Dawkins?
No, I was having an issue with you saying that Darwin was saying that because he was a Christian.
Now, if Dawkins said it, we'd be okay.
No, I think rape is
We got two
subjectively wrong.
questioners against one person.
Okay. No, but that's exactly what he's saying.
Okay,
So you agree
one
with
more
him?
time, I'm sorry.
Anyway, okay. So atheism, let's go back to this. Atheism leads to subjective morality, and the first reason why is because biology itself, if you use it as a source of ethics, it leads to subjectivity. Okay. The second is society. Now, if you leave it up to society to decide morals, then collectively, we as human beings, we can come up with different moral systems, and they would be equally as invalid and equally as subjective. So, since atheism doesn't believe in God, they don't have a moral system outside of themselves, they can't go to biology, and they cannot go to society. Therefore, atheism leads to subjective morality. Why do you disagree with that, sir?
Because plenty of atheists have all sorts of different ideas that aren't inherently, they themselves thinking they're subjective. They think they're as objective as you think yours are. I'm saying I disagree with your premise. A lot of people think their morality is objective when it's not. Because I'll tell you what, if you're a Christian today, you're going to believe different things than a Christian 2,000 years ago, even if you're utilizing the same text in the Bible, the same Christian text. Exactly. Because your morality is not objective. If it was objective, then members of your faith, assuming you get it from an objectively powerful, all-knowing, all-powerful higher power, would not have changed it all. In fact, that it's changed means it's not objective. It means it's subjective. It's changed to keep up with the times. Atheism does not lead to subjectivity because subjectivity is not unique to atheism. It is not a result of atheism. It is simply a result of humanity. Is it a result of people and their beliefs? I don't believe that any of your faiths are objective, even as you keep them as being objective generations for morality. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're a Christian, do you believe that, I don't know, let's say you kill a man, you should have to take his wife, pay whatever reparations you've got and take her as your own wife? If you're a Christian, do you agree with that? I don't know what your faith is. I'm not
The
agreeing
problem
with
here is you didn't actually answer my question.
Do you believe that we should stone? Do you think that we should take children? No, I'm saying, are you a Christian? Don't answer if you're not comfortable
I
answering a
explain.
specific
I
thing.
justify. Wait, 1 second. I justified to you why atheism leads to subjectivity, and I broke down that into.
Yes, okay.
No.
I responded by saying atheism does not lead to subjectivity. Subjectivity is our innate point of being. That's why I reject
all you
it.
did is you explained, according to you, and it's something I disagree with, that subjectivity is something that you can get outside of atheism, and therefore it's not exclusive. Therefore, you cannot say it leads to it.
Exactly.
No, I
Atheism does not
disagree
lead
with
to
that.
subjectivity.
I disagree
and
with
I
that.
disagree with
No,
what you're
okay,
saying.
okay.
Please defend it now.
So let's put it this way. Why is it? Because earlier you were disagreeing with what Dawkins said and stuff. Why
I
is
didn't hear what you said. I
Okay,
asked you to repeat
okay,
yourself, and you chose not to.
okay,
Just as you
one
asked
second.
that man a
One
question,
second, one
you
second.
asked you to repeat it because
One
you couldn't
second,
hear it
one
and you
second.
ignored it. Just as you did that to me earlier. And I'm sorry, as a
Atheists
disabled
are
person,
selective
it's kind of
hearing
hard when I
today.
can't
Okay.
hear.
The atheists are hearing today, selectively.
I
Anyway.
had issues with hearing when the preacher over there was talking about men getting cystectomy.
That's
It's
fine.
less than 1 meter away.
That's fine.
Hearing the whole time.
It's okay. That's fine. It's
I'm a
fine.
religious person.
I'm also not an atheist. I just don't think we should use religion to justify our morals.
Okay. you don't justify your morals regardless, because you're saying you don't want to use religion to justify your morals, but you yourself have only laid out what you believe and where you get it from, as opposed to trying to justify it.
I told you, I come up with my own ideas on human rights and morality.
And you know, those are basically meaningless.
Okay, if you think my views are meaningless, fine, that's your own set of views on it.
I'm not saying I believe they're meaningless. I'm saying objectively they're meaningless.
And I'm rejecting that. Because I see your objective objective morality. Anyone who has objective morality that stems from religion, I then ask why religion 300 years ago and today has different ideas about morality, has different interpretations of the same moral text. If there's one all-knowing, all-powerful deity, and they've given us a moral set of systems, why does it change? The fact that it changes means it's not subjective, because if it was subjective, it would never change.
So one thing I like to do. Let me answer that.
Yeah, but let somebody else speak. Because
don't worry. Anybody can speak here. Okay. So what the gentleman Mason said, is this: if morality is objective, why do different people have different conceptions of morality? Therefore, morality is subjective.
Why do members of the same faith have different?
Same faith, different faith doesn't matter. Okay.
No,
now,
same faith does matter.
Okay, fine. Why do members of the same faith? So now we're going to use his logic, and we're going to apply it to a different field. So the phenomena of cosmology, of the beginning of the universe, it has many different interpretations from the same scientific field. Therefore, we cannot describe this phenomena in an objective way.
Tell me
so when we take his logic, wait, one second.
Gravity is a capital T theory. Gravity is something we know. Evolution is a capital T theory. It's something we've established. Plate tectonics is a capital T theory. It's something we've established. There's no capital T theory for the beginning of the universe. The fact that there is no subjective theory for the creation of the universe means that science has no objective answer for how we're there. The fact that scientists say we don't know when they are ignorant of it is the right thing to do. When you don't know, you say, I am ignorant, I don't have an idea yet. There are lowercase t theories. I might have a lowercase t theory that
you're talking
the wind
a lot,
is
but you're not
generated
making any sense.
You're
not actually making any sense. All I did, let me repeat again, Ali, what I said, because you're just a newcomer and I like your jacket. Yeah? All I did is this. He said, wait 1 second. Mason, I'm not going to misrepresent you here, yeah? What you said is if morality is objective, why do members of the same faith have different views, therefore it's subjective?
Yes,
That's
and you said, so why do members of
No,
science
one second. Then what I said is, let's take your logic, So what I said is, let's take your logic and let's apply it to physics.
Okay, so
in physics, in the same field, for the same phenomena, you have different schools of thought, different physicists with different interpretations. Therefore, there's no objective reality to the beginning of the universe or any other scientific field.
Yes, okay.
What does that show? Your incoherency of your worldview when applied to science.
No, you've just equated science.
It comes up with conclusions which are absurd.
Here's this, right? Evolution is a capital T theory. We know that evolution is real, although our understanding is is constantly changing. We understand plate tectonics is a capital T theory. Plate tectonics is real, but our understanding is constantly changing. Gravity is a capital T theory. We understand it, but our understanding is constantly changing.
Mistake.
But the creation of the universe, doesn't have a single capital T theory. We don't have a single theory that says the Big Bang happened this way because of this mechanism, and this mechanism.
Would you come and support if he was a Muslim?
We don't have an objective
yes, I
answer.
would.
We don't even have a working objective answer that our understanding of is constantly changing. Science is not the same as religion. Religion requires faith. It requires belief without evidence, whereas science does not require faith. It requires
Okay, good. The monologue's over now. Let me explain why what you said was a category. Why it was a category error. Let me explain why it's a category error.
Explain yourself.
The reason it's a category error is he is mistaking epistemology for ontology. What I said is different views. You don't need to protect him. I'm not gonna patronize him. Don't worry. It's fine. He can talk for himself. He's a big boy. He can talk for himself.
You don't exist. Why are you calling him?
If you call it subjective or objective?
You don't exist, madam.
Okay.
She does exist. Like you exist.
Okay.
That's subjective or objective?
That's what he believes.
We all exist. We all exist.
He doesn't believe that she 100% exists.
Okay, let me explain. Let me explain why what you said was a category error.
Okay? I'll explain why what you said is a category error. Wait, one second.
Explain to
He's,
us.
okay. The reason why it's a category error is this. You have mistaken, Mason, you have mistaken epistemology for ontology. I was speaking from an ontological perspective. If there's different views about something, it doesn't mean there's no objective reality to the beginning of the universe. So, what you did in your answer is you mistaked my ontological. Are you listening?
Oh, now he's calling. Now he's calling.
Look,
Why are you calling them out?
Why are you trying to take him away?
She was also. We planned on that.
She can call, but not you.
I don't know that, Kai.
He's saying, are we bullying you? He's saying we're bullying you.
You're not bullying me.
Did
but
you
I
feel-
truly
did you feel
and honestly
bullied?
believe you're arguing in bad faith.
Did you feel
from
bullied?
Ignoring my own disability with hearing and belittling it.
No. Never did. No. Don't play the victim's card. Wait, let me defend myself.
I'm saying
No,
that
don't
you've
play the
been
victim's
acting
card.
in bad faith the whole
Let me state it in public. I never discriminated you against your hearing. I said people are selectively hearing when the argument is not defendable. Playing victim's card is not going to help.
Okay.
Shameful. No, this is very shameful. How in public people play the victim card and accuse so that they can get the sympathy.
Against four of you. One guy against four and more will come.
No. Are you a Muslim?
I'm not Muslim.
No wonder.
Let me guess. Is it four jihadists against him? Just to clarify.
He did well. Sorry. May I ask why?
Okay.
Why do you help him?
Did you hear something?
Is
I'm not helping
my brother
him.
a jihadist?
But I tell you what
my
I thought.
brother
I'm
jihadist?
not helping him. I've never met him. First time I've met him. Okay? But I just thought maybe you were all ganging up a little bit.
No. Do you know why his rhetoric doesn't help?
He has got, obviously, he's got his opinions and you've got your opinions. You both have different
But do you know
opinions.
how a monologue like this, reading like a script, doesn't help engaging?
I'm not taking sides either with you or him. I'm trying to understand where you're both coming
Did you
from.
understand him?
You know, I understood him, but I also
Can you
understand
summarize
you,
something?
You know.
Can you summarize something that he
No,
said?
because I've come here by accident, so I'm not a speaker.
Yeah, but do you see something? This monologue that he had,
see if something's unfair.
these are scripted monologues for people who think they know what they're talking about, but they're not answering the question that is asked.
Yeah, but-
That's why when he was grilled,
but-
what are you answering? He says, oh, say that one more time. Maybe I couldn't hear it. And then he played the victim card, or I have a disability in hearing. That's not how you should say. You should have said it from the very beginning that I have problems with the hearing. Right? Unfortunately today we saw someone who is pretending to be an atheist when he is not, and trying to play the victim's card when the argument he's presenting is weak. That's really, really sad. I'm just telling you there is a sad state of affairs when we see certain people pretending to be an atheist and when they're not representing it. Anyway, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good, thanks. That's fine.